You just think about this. You go back to it. Hey, you know, it would have made us a lot more resilient to the economic fallout caused by all of this happening. Probably if we like invested in stuff. Probably if we invested in stuff in broadband, energy generation, food security, you know, maybe we wouldn't have to every time like the economy went down, deciding a new class of people to kill. We wouldn't have, just no one would be doing that. Even
we're kind of running out of classes here. Like this is a bad time. We're running out of like adjectives.
Hey, you know what? It's going to be fine because Keir Starmer watched Adolescence and that's his new plan.
Great. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, right, retreating towards the TV is, it's an interesting redoubt for kind of like the center right, right? Because posting is the province of like the truly weird now, like, you know, us. But like you can still, there's enough of a wall around TV for the most part that like isn't even there in movies necessarily, that you can still be like, well, you know, this is something that we can use. And so you end up with this really strange British phenomenon of governance by prestige drama.
Yeah, this is the second time this has happened in the last year. It's crazy. It's one of those things where like if I had a nickel for every time the Labour Party made policy on the basis of a prestige drama, I would have 2 nickels. That's still too many nickels for that particular thing.
Yeah, I think it'd be so funny if Keir Starmer like just did this every time he sort of saw a film or a TV show that he really liked. Like he sort of called everyone in to be like,
I've been watching Chef's Table.
I watched this wonderful film called Anora, and it's made me think about, I don't know. I don't know what his opinions on Anora would be.
Keir Starmer watching like the absolute slop tier of Netflix, just like I've seen the floor is lava, and that's going to be the kind of thing that gives him impetus for the next couple of years of government. Is what if you couldn't touch the floor? What if you had to get around by jumping on couches and stuff?
Yeah. Just don't let him watch Squid Game.
No, Hussein, I know what his policy would be after watching Anora, which is he'd want to sanction those fictional Russian oligarchs. They were very cruel to Mikey Madison, and I'm seeking all manners available to freeze their assets in the UK.
Ban video games. Actually, that one might not be so bad.
Yeah. No. So to sort of for context, again, I think for those of you who might be outside the UK, you might be confused as to what we're talking about. Is the Netflix hit show Adolescence, which is about the sort of
it's about incels. I haven't seen it, but the British political class responded to it in 2, I think, very representative ways, right? Because Starmer was like, okay, well, this is something that's easier than governing, and obviously we have a problem with like the youths in this country, and the problem isn't that, you know, anything that might be sort of remediable by policy, like, you know, feeling like they're not going to ever have a pension, or like we're going to broil all of them alive with the climate, or anything like that. No,
I'll just add, or the fact that a lot of like incel beliefs are amplified by our normal mainstream media.
Yep. It's what it is it's like online radicalization, and it's like extreme like toxic misogyny, which sure, absolutely, right? But the solution to that then is to take this Netflix drama written for adults in order to make adults go, gosh, I should like, you know, speak to my kid once in a while, and show that like mandatorily in all schools to the kids themselves, to be like, if you do an incel murder, your dad Stephen Graham is going to be sad.
There's like I think the analogy about like, oh, this is like another sort of Captain Tom thing is like very apt. One, because no one saw the end credits where like the family actually built a sauna in their back garden in honor of their incel son. No, like it's that very sort of classic like
just sitting around with your dad in the men only incel onsen.
Yeah, and you're talking about your feelings, and like that's the way that you prevent them from radicalization. Like you just got to like,
every school is going to have an incel onsen built into it by the end of this parliament.
You got to be naked. You got to be naked with your teacher and talk about your feelings.
God, not again. I already did that once in my life.
That's how we're going to fix misogyny, by making a boys only sauna in every school.
It's a very like, this is like a very classic example of like using something that is sort of already like instead of like doing any type of government or any type of policy. And it's interesting because like a news story came out maybe today or perhaps yesterday where it was basically the point was that the British government had opportunities to like not bring Andrew Tate to justice, but to sort of like take him to court for like, you know, things that are pretty pretty bad, mostly to do with like abuse towards women that he was dating. In like information of a new one sort of came out quite recently, and they decided not to do it, right?
Yeah.
And this is like on the same day that Keir Starmer is sort of doing this press conference, or you're doing this sort of like video op, saying, oh, as a father of teenage boys, and as a son of a toolmaker, this moved me so much, and I believe that like every student in the UK should watch it. We should talk about it with their teachers. Number one, sort of ignoring the fact that like teachers don't really have the time to like be doing that, which is like addressed in this show. I think like it was a decent serial. It's not like I don't think it's sort of like as amazing in terms of like its story as people are saying it is. It's fine. It's like there are parts of it that are sort of interesting, and I thought some of it was done very well. But like the critiques that are sort of being made in that show, i.e. that like you have young people, not just like young men, but young people who are sort of like finding like these very false senses of belonging in these like very visible, I was going to say obscure, but they're not really obscure. These visible like online communities that everyone else, like including their like adults who are sort of supposed to be looking after them, either ignore it or they are actively participating in them, right?
Yeah.
And then sort of being like, oh, the way to sort of solve this problem is not by like any type of meaningful intervention. It's not to sort of think about like why people who are like young kids in like in this country are sort of finding more belonging with like or they feel like they are sort of they can feel more related to the Andrew Tates of the world. Like that's kind of something that we don't really want to talk about. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to like wheel out the TV that hasn't been changed since like 1996, and everyone's going to watch like a grainy version of like the Adolescence TV show.
Oh, watch Netflix on the CRT. I mean, it's like there's another aspect to this as well, which is Starmer had his reaction to it, which is build the onsen, right? But like Kemi Badenoch, who you don't hear much from these days, mostly because she's online, right? Like I kind of quite
she's a poster. She is a poster.
I relate to Kemi Badenoch in the sense that she mostly doesn't give a fuck about work, but does enjoy like posting on the internet and getting absolutely brain poisoned from it. And so she used like this like Nazi conspiracy theory from online that the writers of Adolescence had like race swapped the character to make him white in order to do like anti-white racism. And then her press office were like, we're not saying where she got that idea from. We're not answering any questions about why she thinks this or why she said this, which is she's like genuinely up there with JD Vance in the sense of like, you have an important job, but you don't want to do it. What you want to do is post, right? And I dread to think what Discord server she's on.
Yeah, I mean, taking it back, right? I think the reason that so many policymakers seem to want to like seize on individual works of sort of television, or Captain Tom's going up and down his garden, or Adolescence is finally the answer to like teenage male misogyny, or oh my god, a government contract championed by the Blair administration wrongfully convicted like hundreds of sub postmasters. I think it's a combination of a couple of things. But mainly it's that I think that they think that TV is where normal lives. And once something is popular on TV, it's now normal and it's now safe.
Yeah, it's this passion for like cutting through, right? And like this is something we can all agree on is like still a traditional mode of power where, the old rules still apply, which, like I say, it's got a kind of wall around it that might make that true to a point, but it's no way to govern. Right?
Well, government purely by reacting to TV isn't government. It's fucking Gogglebox. I mean, like we talk about like just every day, it seems like the Labour government comes up with new ways to tell us it is fundamentally out of ideas. And and the repeated policy that gets made because Keir Starmer watched it on TV is ludicrous.
It's interesting as well, Starmer's sort of like use of his children public, because I remember for a long time during the campaign and before that even, he was like, I don't talk about my kids. I want to try and like shield them from like, all of this negativity and like political discourse and stuff. You're not gonna see my kids. I'm not gonna name my kids. I'm not gonna talk about them. We're gonna like sort of ruthlessly punish anyone who tries to like, do any press about them, which is fine. Like that's all well and good, right? Except the second things get a bit tough politically, he's like, well, I was watching this show with my kids because I care about my kids. I'm going to talk about this a lot instead of like doing anything else. And it's just like that strikes me as a little bit cynical, maybe.
Yeah, also, he's like, I never talk about my kids because I want to protect them. Anyway, my son might be an incel murderer, so I definitely needed to show him adolescence. I'm not going to tell you anything else about my kids other than the fact that when I saw adolescence, it made me feel like I had to intervene with my son.